uh, determined that it doesn't prevent crime. It may help solve a crime here or there, but we have enough of that, enough resources to do that. We don't need this. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go next to Dominic and then to Myra.
Oh, thanks.
Do we lose? Okay, we'll go to Myra and then we'll try Dominic again. Dominic? Okay, we're going to try Myra. Myra, we're calling for your public comment now.
Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mayra Hernandez, Monterey County resident, District 2. Just want to say that I also am opposed to the approval of flock cameras. Many have already stated many reasons why you should vote no to adding 40 additional cameras. And I want to echo what's been said by local leaders. There are too many questions and concerns around privacy, data retention, and how information collected in public spaces can be searched and shared. So there are better investments that can be made to support the safety of our communities. Please listen to the people. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll circle back to Dominic. Oh, it looks like we have multiple.
Hello, can you hear me now?
We can hear you now. Thanks for your perseverance.
Hi, I'm so sorry. I was having phone troubles. Anyway, I'm a resident of District 5. I'm concerned about my privacy. I sat on a murder trial in this county. I spent weeks of my life hearing everything the prosecution had. We were never shown a single license plate camera record or flock record. The case was made by witness testimony, physical evidence, and detectives doing work. We are told that these cameras are how serious crimes get solved, but in most cases I personally watched get solved, they were nowhere in the room. Someone will tell you the data produced will never reach a jury. Some say that plainly on public record because it is a far smaller claim than being sold to the public. Generating occasional leads does not justify a permanent searchable record where 400,000 innocent people drive every day. And the law is not as settled as you've been told. The federal judge upheld that the flock system may be considered unconstitutional. The small size of the network is not a defense. There are multiple rulings on appeal, and we are set to have hundreds of cameras. I would like to thank everyone for what they've already said today, as they have put better into words than I ever could the way that the rest of this community feels about this flock program. I'd like to leave the commission with one quote from Benjamin Franklin, and he said that those who would give up essential liberty to purchase a little temporary safety deserve neither liberty nor safety. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next we're going to go to David and then to Lisa.
Hello, this is David. Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Hi, I was just checking my watch. I thought this was 1984 in East Germany, but no, welcome to Monterey County. I would like to thank all the brilliant speakers, students from CSUMB. Everybody has had just marvelous, eloquent comments. Brilliant. I'm here representing, I'm David Dilworth. I'm representing a group called POPSIS, Protect Our Privacy, Stop Illegal Surveillance. It's a newly forged nonprofit that is ready to use courts to stop privacy violations. One thing I think I can add to this discussion is the definition of surveillance. The CIA's definition of surveillance, you got to admit, they know what it is. It's called, this is a quote, the systematic observation or monitoring of places, persons, or things by visual, oral, electronic, photographic, or other means. And then John Kirikou, a former CIA station chief who was personally targeted for assassination by a foreign agent surveilling him, describes it as multiple sightings at time and distance. That means 2 sightings of one person constitutes surveillance. That means if you get caught by 2 different flock cameras, you have just been officially surveilled. This means any activity with 2 or more cameras, detectors, or sensors is conducting surveillance according to the United States government, even if the picture or the video is not saved or analyzed. But when video or images are saved or analyzed, that constitutes even higher level of surveillance. I urge you to reject this and agendize putting the existing contract for cancellation on your agenda. And I would also like to have you propose a law to
Sorry,
have
we're out of
license.
time. Thank you. We're going to move on to Lisa and then Paloma.
Good afternoon. My name is Lisa. My representative is Supervisor Church. I would just like to strongly oppose Flock, Axon, any other company. There's no need to have ALPRs in this county. Thank you.
We'll go next to Mandy.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now.
Okay, great. I'm Mandy Owen. I'm a resident in District 5, and I'm also opposing Flock technology. I ask that you reconsider committing over $300,000 every year for over 8 years in the future to Flock surveillance technology. That money could strengthen real community safety at the root: mental health crisis response, housing, homelessness prevention, youth programs, veteran services, senior services, immigrant services, and support for LGBTQ+ residents. You name it, any of these investments address the upstream conditions that create harm before someone needs to actually call the police. We also need to think beyond who operates this technology today. Surveillance systems and the data they collect will outlast any sheriff, any county administration, any political movement. Once this infrastructure exists, it may be retained, shared, combined with other databases, and used in ways we cannot fully predict, comprehend, or control. History also shows us that surveillance and policing harm Black and Brown communities and other marginalized people disproportionately. So we should not build the system first and ask about or have to dismantle its consequences later. Monterey County is smarter than that. And at a time of expanding government surveillance and growing public concern about privacy and authoritarianism, with ICE encroachment as a real threat here in Monterey County, we should be especially cautious about investing in technology designed to track people's movements. Political affiliations aside, I think we can all agree that constant surveillance violates everyone's privacy. Instead of spending $2.781 million on surveillance, as folks on social media have already broadly commented, literally spend it on anything else. Create something like a Monterey County Community Safety Fund, one that invests in people and prevention and creates stability and trust. Let's choose a model of public safety that begins by supporting our community, not surveilling it. Thanks.
Thank you. And I did skip Paloma. My apologies. We're going to go back to Paloma and then to Zoira.
Good afternoon. My name is Paloma. Can you guys hear me?
Paloma, we don't have great audio for you. Do you want to try again?
Can you hear me now?
It's very, very, very quiet.
Oh, no. Okay, hold on.
Okay, let's...
How about now?
There we go. We've got you now. Okay, thank you.
Okay. My name is Paloma. I'm a Monterey County resident and a stay-at-home mom, and I have worked for law enforcement in the county, so I am familiar with the ways in which Flock can facilitate investigations and lead to arrests and things like that. I understand why law enforcement thinks it's a good tool. I am most concerned about the data that it collects and how that is retained and that it is searchable, and that this is a national company rather than a local organization. So I would urge the council or the Board of Supervisors, to review the contract and make sure that our data is not going to be misused or mishandled. And ultimately, I think it's probably smartest to just oppose Flock and not take on this contract and to cancel any existing ones. Thank you.
Thank you. And we'll go next to Thomas.
Hello?
Thomas, we've got your audio. Thank you.
Awesome. I believe that the supposed benefits of Flock are heavily outweighed by all the negatives. We're told that this is something that's just going to help the sheriff's office catch criminals, that it's something that's only going to be used by them, but the harm it can cause when it goes beyond that is immeasurable, and in fact, it's happened before. On April 5th, 2026, Monterey County Now published an article revealing that in 2025, the sheriff's office had shared its data illegally with law enforcement agencies across the country, including Rhode Island, Michigan, Texas, and Utah. And this was data that it had taken from Flock cameras that were existing at the time. Furthermore, it's easy and very easy for members of the police to use Flock cameras to survey people for their own personal reasons. All across the country, there are cases of police officers surveying their exes or other people illegally without those people being people of interest in any case at all. The fact that Flock cameras allow this and that there's no way that it can be stopped currently means that essentially by installing Flock cameras, we are installing things that violate our privacy for reasons that simply aren't worth it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you all for your comments. We're seeing no other hands raised, so I am going to go ahead and close general public comment. Again, this was general public comment we were hearing because item number 9 had been pulled, so we weren't able to receive a presentation today or have discussion on it. In general public comment, we don't typically respond to comments or questions, with few exceptions to have staff follow up. But I do want to express my appreciation to counting well over 50 people who attended in person or via Zoom to participate in general public comment today. We are listening, and I can assure you that, I can't assure you, but I can encourage and hope that the sheriff is also listening, as this contract is one that the sheriff is initiating and bringing to this board for consideration. So we expect that the item on flock safety will return potentially on September 22nd. So please do watch future agendas if you would like to remain engaged in the conversation. And as the conversation continues, any comment that you'd like to have on record can be sent to cob@countyofmonterey.gov. One thing just from a clarification point that I wanted to comment on is that this board meets every Tuesday from 9 to 5. So I do understand that it's difficult to get to our meetings. It can also be difficult in the evening for families who are trying to feed their kids and do bedtime to be out in the evening. But there's no reason why, if there was interest, we couldn't host, or the sheriff couldn't host, an informational meeting and discussion at another time that catches a different group of folks that can't otherwise participate during the day. But this is our regular meeting time. We regularly approve up to 100 items every Tuesday when we're in these chambers all day. So not trying to exclude anyone, just wanted to comment on that. Any other comments or responses? No? Okay, I'm just looking to council. All right. And again, this is not typically how we have general public comment in the afternoon, so I just don't want to set any expectations that normally general public comment would be in the morning at right after 10:30. Okay. Okay, with that, thank you. We have our next item today, which is to introduce the creation of an Office of Inspector General, and I'm going to pass the floor to staff to present. I'm going to pass the floor to County Council to present. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm here with Chief Assistant CAO Nick Chulos, and management analyst, Cassandra Zarco, who is going to assist in this presentation as well. And I would say go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint. I can start while we're getting it up. We're here today to ask the board to introduce and waive reading and set September 1st, 2026 for adoption of an ordinance creating the Office of Inspector General, to approve a contract of $150,000 with the OIR Group to serve as the Office of Inspector General, to take the necessary budgetary actions to use contingency funds to pay for the contract, and then to request authorization for county council to enter into any contracts needed to preserve confidentiality of records and to effectuate the work of the Office of the Inspector General. As this board knows, on July 7, 2026, the board directed staff to establish an Office of the Inspector General. Government Code Section 25303 requires the board to supervise the conduct of county officers, including the sheriff, and specifically Government Code Section 25303.7 authorizes the county to establish an Office of Inspector General to assist the board with that responsibility. The proposed ordinance adds Chapter 2.93 of the Monterey County Code to establish the Office of the Inspector General. Some of the purposes listed in the proposed ordinance is obviously to support the board's duty to supervise county officers, to further the goals of the county in transparency, accountability, public safety, and improvement of policing practices, to provide independent oversight through the contracted entity. And also, I think it's important to say, to preserve the operational independence of the sheriff, in that the Office of Inspector General may not manage, direct, or interfere with sheriff's office operations or investigation. The ordinance also requires cooperation by county departments and contractors and the sheriff's office to provide information when requested by the OIG. It anticipates written protocols to be developed, which will govern the access, maintenance, and disclosure of confidential information. It ensures that this information that is confidential will be safeguarded as required by law. And finally, it anticipates that the OIG may issue a subpoena if informal methods to acquire information are unsuccessful. As I mentioned, we would propose an initial one-year contract with the OIR Group for $150,000. This group has extensive experience in law enforcement investigations and right now serves as the OIG in many jurisdictions throughout the state. Some of the scope and initial priorities that are listed in the proposed agreement that's attached to the board report are to monitor and review law enforcement and jail operations, looking at things like civil rights compliance, serious incidents, officer-involved shootings, use of force, to conduct research and recommend improvements to policies and practices, to report regularly to the Board of Supervisors, and to communicate with the public, the Sheriff's Office, and the County Administrative Officer, and also as an initial priority to meet with stakeholders and come back to this board advising how best to establish a citizens advisory group that will be positioned well for long-term success. And with that, these are the requested board actions. Again, the details on the budget requirements have been added to the board report. They weren't there at the initial filing of the board report. Nick Chulos is here. Do you have anything to add or any questions?
No, thank you. This was an excellent overview, Susan. Just to stress to the board that to move the money from contingencies to fund the contract will take a 4/5 vote of the board today.
Which is unanimous
Correct.
at this point.
Great, thank you. I'm going to start by opening it up to the public, unless there's questions from this board. Okay, let's open this up to the public, and I know we've had folks who've been with us for a while this afternoon. Thank you for sticking it out. Any public comment?
Good afternoon, members of the board. I'm Felipe Lopez, and I'm a part of the Salinas Leadership Blue Light Council 3315. I'm here to support ORD 26-012 and the creation of an independent office of the Inspector General to provide oversight of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office. Independent oversight should not be viewed as an anti-law enforcement. It should be a basic accountability measure that protects the public, protects good officers, and builds trust in the institutions that have significant power over our communities. Right now, the Sheriff's Office has its own internal process, I assume, for reviewing complaints and misconduct, but internal review is not the same as independent oversight. The public should have the confidence that serious concerns like the use of force and other major issues can be reviewed by someone outside of the agency itself. Oversight should not depend on who happens to be the sheriff at the given time. Strong institutions create accountability that lasts beyond any one elected official. Also, trust is very important, but trust should not replace oversight. For those reasons, I urge the board to support ORD 26-012, establish the Office of the Inspector General, and continue moving forward toward meaningful civilian participation in sheriff oversight. Thank you.
Good afternoon, board. Again, my name is Jasmine Topete, Salinas Leadership Blue Light Council 3315. I'm here today to urge you to move sheriff oversight forward. We recently saw why independent oversight matters with the situation involving the sheriff's office flock camera data. Information collected here in Monterey County was shared with out-of-state agencies, raising serious concerns about privacy, accountability, and who has access to our community's information. Situations like this are exactly why we need stronger, independent oversight. When something goes wrong, the public should not have to rely solely on the agency involved to review what happened. Today, you have the opportunity to continue moving this process forward by establishing an Office of the Inspector General, moving forward with the proposed one-year contract, and beginning to work toward meaningful community involvement through a citizens advisory group. This is a step toward greater transparency, accountability, and public trust, and I urge you to move this forward today. Thank you.
I'm Michelle Welsh, resident of Pacific Grove, volunteer with ACLU, and also a member of the Monterey County Coalition for Sheriff Oversight, which has been working on this issue for about 3 years. So we're very gratified that the board has come to this point, but want to point out that your action is necessary, and your unanimous support in July for this proposal was very much appreciated and very much needed. No sheriff's department is without its problems. We don't need to detail them here, but we are fortunate to have the expertise of Sheriff Nieto to bring to those problems. But any sheriff in the future would be benefited by having an oversight system in place. And so now is the time to put that system in place and to vote for an ordinance establishing the Office of the Inspector General, with the advisory panel or board, as also authorized by the statute, to be comprised of, I would say, not just citizens, but members of our community, citizen and non-citizen alike. The OIR group is recognized nationally as one of the main experts in sheriff oversight and law enforcement oversight in general. So I urge you also to approve the contract with OIG and with Michael Giannacco in particular that we are familiar with. So now is the time, and oversight will also assist the sheriff in carrying out the policies of this board and the policies and values of Monterey County, some of which are not currently being carried out by the sheriff in the immigration area. So I appreciate your work on this, and as other speakers have said, please move it forward today. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Chris Barrera, President of LULAC Council 2055, and a representative of the Coalition for Oversight of the Monterey County Sheriff's Office. I am here today with a very simple message. Enough delays, adopt civilian oversight, and establish the Office of Inspector General. This community has waited long enough. When Sheriff Tina Nieto campaigned for office, civilian oversight was promised. That promise was made to the people of Monterey County, and promises made during campaigns should not be suddenly become optional after Election Day. And let me be clear, this is not about Sheriff Tina Nieto personally. I'm very good friends with Tina, and I was even on her executive campaign committee back in 2022. But oversight must exist regardless of who occupies that office. Sheriffs come and go, accountability must remain. We all remember who our previous sheriff was, right? An independent inspector general and a strong civilian oversight body provide transparency, investigate systematic problems, examine policies and practices, and give the public confidence that no department and no elected official operate without accountability. Yet somehow this county can even consider moving forward with this flock surveillance camera watching the public, while we are still debating whether the sheriff's office itself should have meaningful and independent oversight. I mean, what are we doing here? Think about that contradiction. If government wants more tools to watch the people, then the people deserve stronger tools to watch the government. No more kicking this can down the road, no more excuses. Keep the promise, establish the Inspector General, adopt civilian oversight, and make accountability permanent in Monterey County. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Again, I am here to speak about the Oversight Committee. I agree with those that have just spoken. We do need an Inspector General to help oversee the Sheriff's Department, and then also an independent committee made up of civilians of the community. We've already heard in previous months, right? The Sheriff's Department, I mean, they're human. There's going to be mistakes. There's going to be biases. And unfortunately, they don't check them at the door when they get to work, right? They're supposed to, and we would hope so, but it's not entirely happening. That doesn't mean that others are not doing their job, which they are, but we cannot have that risk that it continues to happen. We have to do something about it. And so I am here to continue to approve an oversight committee for the Sheriff's Department. And I am thankful that this is moving along and is not just staying in the talk phase, because a lot of the committees, they go around and around in ideas and it stays in the talk phase and it never moves forward. And that's just sickening and a disappointment for the community. We entrust you all to continue to do what is right for the community and to keep us safe, right? So yes, we do need to move this along and get this already voted for and already established and the meetings going. Thank you.
Joseph Senish, a resident of Monterey County, District 5. I've had the pleasure of having roommates and neighbors that were engaged in law enforcement in my lifetime, and I think they would all agree with me that if you go without independent, outside review of law enforcement, you're asking the fox to go into the hen house and count the eggs, and so I would definitely favor passing this ordinance and moving it forward.
All right, I'm, one more, okay.
Good afternoon again, Margaret Sedana-Benetti. And I'd like, as I mentioned earlier, I served on the school board. One of the biggest problems we encountered with law enforcement was that they sort of thought they had an idea that so when they decided something and decided a kid was live bait that they could go after, they put everybody else in check and they left them out of the equation and they just went after them with no accountability. And so I think that having an oversight committee for this particular sheriff's department, especially at a time like this when the sheriff seems to be very disconnected. I mean, I can't believe there's even a recommendation on the flock cameras for 10 years, which blocks the public completely. And so the sheriff seems to be living in a bubble of technology and toys and tools and all these things that can be used against the public. What we need is stakeholders. We need this oversight. We need to approve this particular position of the Inspector General, and we need accountability, transparency, and we need to do this now because this has been going on way too long. And so, even for the sheriff to cancel out on the prior issue from flock cameras tells me that they're wholly unprepared and living in a bubble. So let's get the sheriff out of the bubble. Let's get the rest of us all together collaborating so that we can have these conversations and we get our input. And, thank you again.
All right, we'll go online to iPad Pro.
Yes, I just like to talk about the civilian oversight and Inspector General and just express what a better way to improve collaboration and relationship from the public with the sheriff's office for everyone to better understand each other and give input to the sheriff and back to the public on things they might need to know or want to know. And when this has been talked about for 4 years, and I think it's been a long time, and I just hope that we could get this passed today. It's even if it's just for a short time, the 1 year, 150,000. I think at times Sheriff Nieto has said she welcomes it. So I hope that stands true, and I hope that you as a board can be unanimous and make this pass. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to this board for any questions. Go ahead.
I have one question, and then I'm more than happy to move this forward. But the question, just for clarification purposes, has to do with the timing, because we heard about the Citizens Oversight Committee in the public comments. So to be clear, this would be to get the Office of the Inspector General approved and moving forward, and then would the Inspector General themselves play a role in the creation of that oversight? At what point and how soon can the community expect movement on the Citizens Oversight Committee?
I think the idea would be one of the initial tasks for the OIR group would be to start meeting with stakeholders and start advising. The CAO would be monitoring the contract and being the liaison to the board, using their vast experience to suggest some formats that we would then come back to the board with on establishing a citizen advisory committee. I would assume that's going to take some time to meet with various stakeholders. It's not going to be instantaneous, but I would hope that we could proceed pretty quickly.
And approving this contract with OIR is the first step. So with that, when it's appropriate, I am prepared to go with the staff's recommendation A through C.
Yeah, I guess my concern here is that, is the phrase stakeholders, because they'll sometimes see that kind of narrowed down from the general public. I've raised it in the past, and I kind of raise it again. Who are we talking about here, particularly if it's for if the Inspector General is going to be going out and engaging with people, who would that be?
I can't tell you offhand, but I also could say that we could recommend that they meet with the various board members to get suggestions for folks to meet in the community.
Okay, I'm all for that. The Inspector General needs to be one doing this. I'm just the term's a little too nebulous for me. Is what I'm uncomfortable with, but I'm gonna, we need to go ahead with this. I'm gonna say that, but I just don't know how broad we're going here, and I think that's kind of a unfortunate thing that we didn't really flesh out as well as we should have, and I'm just uncomfortable with that. But again, I was on the with the chair on this ad hoc committee looking into this. This needs to go ahead and needs to be approved. I'm happy to do that, but I just want to put my reservations that I don't believe it's really felt out of just how we're comprising this, and I think that's a problem.
Comments, questions?
I think I brought this up last time, but the question was this requested amount of $150,000. It will only be utilized as they are called to do work on behalf of our county, correct? And the memo did point it out, but how many other, this is relatively new, creating these types of independent auditor oversight positions for Sheriff's Department in California. The OIR group is doing similar work for Santa Cruz County. And the feedback that I've heard has been positive, both from the elected officials and from community stakeholders. Do we know what other counties that they are currently working with? It gives me comfort having experience with neighboring counties, because we could say they've done this work that we're asking them if they're going to do outreach to the community, if they're going to be taking on, looking over particular areas within the Sheriff's Department. It gives me comfort that they're working with a neighboring county, but it would be helpful, I think, for all of us to know what other counties they're doing this similar work for. Do we know that?
I should have written it down, and I didn't, but I know they've done work, I think, for Santa Clara. They've done work for Orange County, I believe. They've done a lot of officer-involved shooting investigations, use of force. As far as serving as the Office of Inspector General, I think Santa Cruz and maybe Santa Clara. I see Nick.
Yeah, I think that's correct.
But don't hold
several
me to that.
cities.
Several
So
cities.
The two counties are Santa Clara and Santa Cruz, and then numerous jurisdictions.
Madam Chair, can I make one comment in response to Supervisor Church's comment about the stakeholder group? When Susan Blitch and I talked to Mr. Gennaro, this firm has extensive experience working with various citizen advisory groups for this type of situation. And we really wanted the opportunity to have them under contract to use their expertise to help us really formulate that plan. And the way I believe we would probably proceed would be have an initial discussion with them and then bring that matter back to the board for the board's input, perhaps get some of the board's input as we're meeting with them. So we understand your concern, and it'll be our top priority as far as getting this going for the beginning at least. So
I'll just finish my comments, Mr. Chulos, is that I think I feel more comfortable with this approach that the board ultimately took, because this group are professionals within the field and with all the training. And I'm just looking at their website. Beyond providing these types of services to counties, they're experts in a lot of different areas, whether it's in internal affairs, audits, and things like that. So that's what I feel more comfortable. So I want to say I'll support the proposal today, and that so that it will move forward, because I know it needs 4 votes to approve the. You made the motion, or I'll second it.
Great, thank you both. I do have a couple questions, and I'm just grateful to see this move forward. I want to just start by acknowledging I don't know if they were here earlier, but it was Chris Barrera and Andrew Sandoval who brought to my attention the AB 1185 legislation, which establishes the right for communities, counties, or the public to create offices of Inspector General and public advisory groups. And it was because of them bringing that forward to me as a new supervisor that we were able to make that board referral and start moving this process forward. At that time, when we first brought it forward, there wasn't support from this board to proceed or move forward. And elections do matter, and the people that you have sitting here on this dais have offered their support to move this forward. So I just want to acknowledge and thank my colleagues who sit here on this board today for your leadership and your support in acknowledging that this is something that could benefit our community.
I think the original proposal was a citizens oversight. That's one model. This was the alternate, which was an independent auditors option under that state law.
Yep. No, initially the referral was to consider either an Office of Inspector General or a Citizens Oversight Committee. So I wrote the referral, and I'm just going to clarify for the record that there wasn't support at the time when it was initially brought forward. I'm really grateful that there's support now. So thank you for your memory, sharing your memory. But within the actual ordinances that we're looking at, the ordinance itself on page 4, and I just want to clarify a few things. We have a not to exceed limit of $150,000 in the actual contract. The ordinance allows for it states, to the maximum extent of it allowed by law, the OIG shall be responsible for all of the following. It lists out a number of different actions. Really what we're saying is shall be at the request of the board or at the direction of the board shall be responsible for any of the following because we're not actually, so I think we need to correct the ordinance. It's on page 3, it's item number C, duties of the Office of Inspector General. So we need to state, we need a correction on the wording of that so that it's at the direction of the board, any of the following. And then item number 8 and 9 on the ordinance state that the sheriff has the authority to, it says, investigating specific incidents involving sheriff's office personnel when requested by or authorization of the sheriff. And I think that we should add with the concurrence of the board or under the concurrence of the board. I think it's important that we retain the Office of the Inspector General as someone who reports to the board and takes direction from the board. And that can be, we're happy to have the sheriff ask for those services, but I think it's important that we retain that. And that would be adding a line under 8 and 9 that says with the concurrence of the board or with authority of the, under authority, with permission of the board. So that's 2 corrections. Yes, please.
If I may speak to 8 as far as personnel matters, the personnel matters would fall under the purview of the sheriff's office directly and not the board. And that is why there's that clarification. So if the sheriff's office wanted, for instance, to use the OIR group for an IA or to help facilitate an IA, that would be solely at the discretion of the sheriff's office, and this board would not have authority to go into an IA conducted by the sheriff. So that's why it's written that way. I will also say if we make substantive changes, we'll have to come back at a different day for doing these because it would be a substantive change to the ordinance. As far as shall be responsible, I think we could change it to may and not have to come back.
Okay, shall to may would make sense. And I just, as I'm reading this, and maybe we're reading this differently, but I'm not asking that the board be involved in a personnel matter. I'm just saying that if the sheriff is going to use time on our contract, that needs to be authorized by the board. Okay. The board needs to say, yes, you have 10 hours, or yes, you're requesting 5 hours of the OIG. Yes, please proceed.
I think that could be handled through the administration by the CAO's office.
Okay, but this is the actual ordinance language. Go ahead, Supervisor Daniels.
I do not support changing shall to may. I don't want to do that in C. And then I think I wanted to reiterate, my concern is the same. It's just, the money we could run the $150,000 down very quickly if the sheriff at her discretion and only her discretion gets to use this for personnel investigations, et cetera. So I think that's not the intent.
We could simply remove that clause, if that made sense.
I mean, I think it's good to keep the clause there, but I just think it needs to be, with approval of, they can do these things with approval of the board.
Not looking to get involved in any personnel matters. It's a billing matter.
Yeah, and this item is where we say the OIG shall have responsibility for these items if assigned or as assigned by the board. Okay, so we're making that correction on item 8 and 9 to clarify. And then, sorry, did you say you don't support changing it from shall to may, or may with the direction of the board or under a board-directed work plan?
I understand what you're asking in terms of it would only be with the direction of the board or the OIG. The Inspector General would be asking for certain things to be investigated, but shall might be confusing to say it's everything all the time on this list. That's not what it means. So if there's a way to fix that, I'm fine with that, but I don't want to make it read something completely different, which is that you may or may not be responsible for some of the following, right? Like it's...
So again, maybe it's just adding like at the direction of the board.
Or CAO.
At the direction of, or under a work plan approved by.
I do think it will have to come back with these changes.
Well, to avoid that, if you just look at the sentence as it's written now, to the maximum extent allowed by law, the OIG shall be responsible for all of the following. Are you reading that at all times this is something the OIG should be pursuing? Or do you see the opportunity to understand, because of other parts of the ordinance and the way that it's written, that it's as per the direction of the county and the board?
If that's the case, then I'm fine with it. I would like to move it forward. But I am looking at the ordinance and wanting to make sure we get it right and not setting up expectations about what we are and are not doing.
I look at .030 as outlining duties that they may they can be responsible for. I think the contract makes it clear that it will be.
Okay. Well, as long as our contract then can verify that, I think that's an important
and then
note to make.
You want to just put on 8 and 9 with approval of board. I think that we can come back with that change for adoption.
Thank you. Okay, and then on the 6-month progress report, I'd just like to be a little clearer, or with the progress report that comes back to us as we get this up and running, I would like to ask for that to be part of our direction today. It's not just summary reports to the board as requested. I would like to have our new Inspector General be asked to come to this board in public within a 6-month mark to provide a progress report about what they've learned, where they're at, answering some of the questions about how the progress on Citizens Advisory Committee is being proceeded. So that's another addition. And
Is
then
that a friendly amendment to?
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
And the second is okay?
Well, there's more coming.
Okay.
Okay. Well, you can take them one at a time too. And okay. And then on the next one, it's under Citizen Advisory Committee. In the ordinance, it speaks that the OIG will meet regularly with the Sheriff's Citizen Advisory Committee. Is that an existing body that we're referring to specifically as the Sheriff's Citizen Advisory Committee, separate from the Citizens Advisory Committee?
That's an excellent point. That's anticipating that you are going to create a Citizen Advisory Committee.
Okay, so we've not been referring to that as the Sheriff's Citizens Advisory Committee, I think, ever. So we need to strike the word sheriff from that because it would be anticipating that we're calling it the Citizens Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And then the same thing in the OIR contract, it says that it will help establish a Sheriff's Law Enforcement Advisory Board. So again, if we're referring to that as our Citizens Advisory Committee, I just think we should have the language match.
Okay.
Okay, and then And then within the scope of services for the Office of Inspector General, there's a lot that's listed as what they could be doing. And I just want to make sure that we're specifically calling out that it would be based on, that their actual work would be based on a board-approved annual work plan.
Yes, I think the board can give direction that they only do work approved by the board, or they can give some general direction that they would automatically do things. And I think maybe the best approach is after the OIR group has been, reviewing things and meeting with people, to come back even earlier than 6 months and get specific direction from this board as to what they want to look into, if that makes sense.
Okay, maybe I'll just make that for a future contract. I mean, the first year we've got a lot to get up and running, but for a future contract, I would just like to have it noted that I think, to be clear, that the work plan would be something that we give direction, because they're not going to be able to do everything that's listed in this scope, nor in the ordinance, within the amount of time that's allotted. So we want to be able to prioritize as a board how that focus time is spent.
Agreed.
Okay. So with that, through the second of the motion, are you comfortable with the amendments? I think I'm okay with this. You are? Okay, fantastic. All right, any further discussion? And again, I just want to thank my colleagues, and I want to thank the public. We would not be sitting here having this discussion had it not been for the years of advocacy and organization that you've been engaged with, and I appreciate you. All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. Right, we are on to item number 11, which is a public hearing for an appeal by David Kinnear of the April 30th, 2026 zoning administrator's decision to approve a coastal development permit.
You can share staff, right?
Good afternoon, Supervisors and Chair Rudasky. My name is Jack Sorensen, Project Planner for PLN 250332 Gupta. I am joined by Melanie Beretti, Chief of Planning. The original planning permit for this project, a coastal development permit for a commercial vacation rental, was approved by the zoning administrator on April 30th, 2026. A timely appeal was received by David Kinnear, and the board heard the appeal on July 7th, 2026, and continued the matter twice. The proposed commercial vacation rental is located at 4159 Sunset Lane in Pebble Beach within the Del Monte Forest Land Use Plan. The parcel is zoned medium-density residential, 4 units per acre, and a design control overlay in the coastal zone. The regulations for commercial vacation rentals allow up to 57 vacation rentals to be approved in the Del Monte Forest Land Use Plan, and if approved, it would be the 4th. Staff would like to make an errata to correct the number of approved applications from the 3rd approved to the 4th if approved, change the 3-year term to a 7-year term, and change the zoning from MDR2 to MDR4. The existing 3-bedroom single-family dwelling has a maximum nighttime occupancy of 7 people and a maximum daytime occupancy of 10. This excludes infants 0 to 12 months of age. The application also exceeds the required parking with 4 total parking spaces. Monterey County Code, Chapter 1680, regulations involving use of private roads applies when considering a coastal development permit for a commercial vacation rental to ensure guests and members of the public have legal, safe access to the property. Staff relies on the plain language of any private road access and/or maintenance agreement when evaluating a CVR use. Because the county is not party to said agreements, in cases where a substantive dispute between the parties exists, Chapter 1680 allows the county to approve the CVR use subject to a condition that the dispute legally resolved by the parties or a court of law prior to the commencement of use. The property is accessed by Sunset Lane, a private road, and is subject to Title 16, Chapter 1680. In this case, the original property deed serves as both the private road access and maintenance agreement. However, there is a substantive dispute between the parties, Pebble Beach Company, and the applicant, whether or not said road access applies in the case of commercial vacation rental. The county is not party to those private agreements, and pursuant to county code, condition number 6 has been applied and requires the private agreement dispute be satisfactorily resolved prior to commencing use as a CVR. The appeal filed contends the decision was contrary to law because the property's deed restriction doesn't allow commercial uses, and the zoning administrator's decision was contrary to law. In this case, the application has been reviewed and is consistent with the policies and regulations of county code and all commercial vacation rental requirements. The subject CCNRs are privately enforced by the Pebble Beach Company. The county is not party and does not enforce privately held CCNRs or deed restrictions, and such matters are private civil issues between property owners and the enforcing entity. Therefore, staff recommends that the Board of Supervisors deny the appeal of David Kinnear, uphold the zoning administrator's decision to find the project categorically exempt pursuant to CEQA guidelines section 15301, and approve a coastal development permit to allow a commercial vacation rental. This conducts staff's presentation, and staff is available for questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll bring it to the board first, or should we let's go to public comment on this item. Is there anyone in chambers for public comment? Take it back. We're going to start with allowing the appellant to make a comment first. Is David Kinnear online, or is a representative for David Kinnear online? We're not seeing. Do we have the developer, Gupta? Is Gupta available to speak? As the agent? Okay, yes, please come. And
having reviewed the...
Thank you. And we're going to allow 5 minutes each for...
Okay. I'm Joseph Sanish. I'm here from Carmel Coast Estate. We are proud to represent Monterey County as the state's #1 rated vacation rental management agency. We been working with the Guptas for several years on their home. They regretfully chose to move closer to their grandchildren and asked us to care for the home in their absence. We would agree with staff wholeheartedly upon review of the CCNRs that in the CCNRs, only the grantor is named as a party to enforce said CCNRs. The CCNRs may be a little outdated. They may not even be transferable, but they certainly do not provide any party other than Del Monte Properties Company the right to enforce them.
Thank you. And we'll do one more call for David Kinnear. Okay. All right. We will bring this back. We're going to now open it up for public comment. Sorry. Thank you. It's been a long afternoon. Okay. So is there anyone in chambers for public comment? Seeing none, we'll move online. We do have some hands raised online. We'll go to Renee, and then iPad, and then Carolyn. Renee, we'll call for you for public comment. This is on item number 11, the appeal of a zoning administrator approval. Okay, we're not getting Renee. We'll go to iPad and then to Carolyn. Yeah.
Hello? Hello?
We have iPad. We'll start with iPad. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, I couldn't tell how it was showing up on the screen there, but I'm a neighbor. I live about 4 houses away. And one of the concerns that's been raised is the number of houses within a particular area that have been rented. And there are 2 almost across the street from this particular one that have already gone through and been approved, I think, through this system within the last couple of weeks. And there's also one that I know of that is operating illegally. And I'm a fairly new resident, so I am not aware of how many others might be operating illegally. But I just want the county to take that into consideration.
Thank you. We'll go next to, we'll start again with Renee. Okay, we're going to go next to Doug.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for taking comments. I just wanted to comment, opposing the appeal to the permit, but also I wanted to add color to the conditions that are placed on permits in Pebble Beach. I think staff inappropriately is treating the Pebble Beach Company as an HOA. And there's 2 elements to the deed restrictions that provide Pebble Beach homeowners. Number 1, the ability to rent their houses without restriction on timeline, and that their tenants have access to the roads. So unwittingly, the is basically ruling in favor of the Pebble Beach Company with every condition they provide, and is basically creating an unmovable roadblock in the way of a homeowner using their property as they have legal right to do. So just want to make sure that the county is factoring in that. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Jessica. Jessica, public comment. Okay, we're not getting any audio for Jessica. We're going to try one more time for Renee.
Hello?
Hi.
Hi. I would just like, oh, I apologize.
Go ahead.
Well, I would like to state that, with the whole flock cameras, the whole thing with the surveillance of people, it really puts a whole, makes really the police department lazy. Like it's making them.
Renee, sorry to interrupt. We're on item number 11 now, which is a Gupta appeal. Do you have public comment on the Gupta appeal?
No.
No. Okay. Sorry. You're always welcome to send any written comment for previous items to cob@countyofmonterey.gov. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. We're going to go again to Carolyn. Okay, we're not getting any audio for Carolyn. All right, we're gonna, unfortunately.
Sorry.
Oh, are we there? Okay, thank you for joining us.
I'm so sorry. Technical difficulties. Thank you, Board of Supervisors, for hearing me.
I am here actually representing nearly 200 residents of the Pebble Beach area, and those are only the ones that have organized so far. My name is Carolyn Griebing. I live over on Crest Road of Pebble Beach within the Del Monte Forest. We're here to formally request your intervention regarding a critical and pervasive issue affecting our community. The proliferation of these commercial short-term rental businesses within the forest has reached a ridiculous level, significantly impacting the character and tranquility of our residential neighborhoods. Currently, county enforcement mechanisms are simply unable to keep pace with the rapid expansion of these operations, permitted and unpermitted. In Upper Pebble Beach alone, we've identified nearly 30 operators within a 2-mile radius of this exact residence that's being considered today. There are several compelling legal and structural reasons why Del Monte Forest should be included in the banned areas of the commercial short-term rental ordinance that is already in place with the county. First, the land use plan strictly prohibits commercial use of these residential properties, as does the CCNRs. The Pebble Beach Company maintains an unwavering policy prohibiting the commercial use of these private roads. The county is currently exhausting valuable resources by processing and improving these permits through the zoning administration, even though the required conditions for these that are issued can never be practically cleared. And the last issue I'd like to bring to light is the significant safety issue that already exists in the forest. I urge you to try and leave the forest at certain times via the Highway 1 gate, and you will realize it is impossible and a huge safety concern. In light of these factors, we strongly urge you to initiate a motion to include the Del Monte Forest in the short-term rental ban, consistent with the protections already afforded Big Sur, Carmel Highlands, and portions of Carmel Valley. I appreciate your time and consideration. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, we also have Dominic.
Can you hear me?
We can, thank you.
Hi, yes. I grew up in the forest and my parents still live there. I would like to acknowledge the extremely high density of unauthorized short-term rental operations inside the forest and their impact on our community, both parking, street clearance, the inability of fire trucks to get past when these houses are full. It becomes a real problem. But I also think that the availability of short-term rentals is part of what makes Pebble Beach and other places like it a world-class destination. And I applaud the attempt to have a limited number of approved rentals done properly. But with that, we need to have some sort of enforcement against the unapproved, unauthorized operations where there is no limit on guest count, there is no assigned parking, and it's causing genuine danger to the community. So I appreciate the effort and support the idea of having a limited number of permitted short-term rentals with strenuous parking requirements and maximum occupancy requirements. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. And we'll do one final call for Jessica. And we're still not getting any audio for Jessica. And I believe we already did iPad. We only allow speakers to speak once. We're just going to double check that iPad, this is a new speaker.
Yeah, I was trying to just mention Jessica can't get her unmute to go off.
Okay.
She's trying to get to reach you, but she's not able to get
Great.
off her computer. So
Thank
anyway.
you. Okay, so we need to close public comment. We've tried our best to reach everyone. We also have written communication that's come in on this item. I'm going to close public comment and bring it back to the board for discussion. It's your district. Supervisor Daniels, did you want to start? And then we'll, if that's okay.
Sure, I'll just go quickly through some of the thoughts. And I want to preface my comments about for the community that has written in and expressed their concerns. What's before us today is this appeal. And that's what we have to focus our attention on. But I want to recognize the real issues. And actually, while I'm saying this, even though this is not related to the appeal, I'm going to ask Ms. Beretti if you could just put on the screen for everybody the GIS overlay with all of, just so when we're talking, you can actually see real permits that have been issued and are in process that are in District 5 and in this part. And if you can do that, that's great. If you can't, I understand, but I really do think it's helpful to have some context when we're having this conversation, though I'm going to try to direct our attention to the appeal. That said, we've heard a lot about density, and density was something I do remember talking about at the Planning Commission, and it's something that, you know, at the appropriate time, I will ask staff to come back and come back soon to talk about density, because I think our ordinance is not effectively addressing a concentration of short-term rental applications in one location, and I'm not sure that discretion is being executed by whomever is the decider, whether it's the zoning administrator or the planning commission. There needs to be something explicit to address when we have a large concentration of short-term rentals in one portion of a land use planning area. And clearly, I think we are needing to return to the conversation of code enforcement. And I want to share with the constituents that have written in and spoken today, since this appeal has been before us, I've had a conversation with Housing and Community Development about who we're enforcing, how we're using our resources, and it is clear, and changes are being made to address the fact that when someone does not have a business license and are operating, they are out of compliance and they need to stop. And so we need some clarity about the permits that are issued, folks that are operating without business licenses or any permissions, how we ensure that that enforcement action is being taken. I just will point your attention to District 5, and if you just scroll in a little bit so we can see where the forest is, and just help folks understand that a green color is an approved permit. A orange circle is a permit that's in the process. And the forest is the area, well, now you can actually see the land use planning area a little bit higher. Sorry, look. Keep going. Yep, perfect. So we've got two portions of the forest because the portion that's purple above the pink where it actually says Dalmany Forest, that's the inland portion of the forest, if I'm correct, inland area, and we have the coastal area. So it's not the folks who are coming here with frustrations imagination that there are a lot of short-term rentals. Not all of them are permitted. Some are in the process of permitting, and some, of course, are operating without a permit, without being in the process, and without a business license. And so I just want to ensure everybody that we have agreed, the board agreed before I even got here, that we would be coming back and having a conversation about the land use planning areas and any further amendments, and getting a report on how the process is working, how the regulations are working, and that will all happen at the appropriate time. But at this time, we are here with an appeal to a permit that was approved under the regulations that we currently have. And the way in which this permit was issued, and county can correct me if I'm wrong, I think aligns with all of the elements of our regulations that were put in place and adopted by this board. And so when that happens, and in this case, in a situation where I believe the regulations made it abundantly clear that an issue with CC&Rs or issues with deeds or issues with restrictions that were placed by various HOAs are to be determined between the applicant and that respective body. That was not something that the board was going to be engaging in a civil matter like that. And so with that in mind, and I'm happy to hear from all my colleagues, I do think the only thing before us to do today, in my mind, would be to deny the appeal and approve the permit with the conditions that have been consistent with all the other permits that we have issued. When somebody applies for a permit in the Del Monte Forest, they are made fully aware of the concerns that the Pebble Beach company has, and they go into the process knowing full well that there is not going to be a business license issued for your short-term rental until that dispute is settled between you and the forest. And so that's what we've been doing, and I think that's what we need to continue to do. And I'm happy for staff to correct anything I potentially said wrong, which I could very well have gotten some element of that after this very long day incorrect. But with all that in mind, I will be moving forward with a motion to deny the appeal and approve the permit with all of the conditions that have existed in every other permit that has been issued in the forest. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I guess I would be supportive of this. I'm trying to understand a little clearer how the county really handles its actions with private when there's private agreements involved, such as the roads here. And we don't get involved with CCRs. But we had somebody else, and a commenter from the Toro Park area earlier today, who went up and referred to about a blue roof, which I guess that the county's having a role in it in terms of approved, and that's with an HOA there. So I'm a little unclear where maybe Mr. Spencer can clarify. It just seems like we're kind of discretionary on how we're dealing with this, and I'm just unclear, on just how we're handling these things.
So overall, the county, we do not enforce private CCNRs, private covenants, restrictions on real property. I will note that the prior regulations that were on the books for the county for the inland transient use for vacation rental did specifically state that did allow for objections from HOAs and individuals with CCNRs. Those regulations, so with regards to vacation rentals, that no longer holds. The board made the decision not to allow for that and to stay out of the CCNR and deed disputes as they relate to vacation rentals. With regard to vacation rentals, specifically, the county does have its Chapter 1680. That was on the books before, and the decision was made to ensure safe and legal access to these properties, that indeed, yes, 1680 would apply for the use and coastal development permits for commercial vacation rentals. In this case, the way that is structured is if the plain language clearly says you can do a use or clearly says you cannot do a use, the county will take that plain language. However, if there is a substantive dispute that is provided, which in this case with vacation rentals with the Del Monte and within Del Monte Forest, there is a substantive dispute, that is where we simply approve but place a condition to say private parties work this out amongst yourselves and or in a court of law. And then once there is legal clarity as to the use of that private road and you provide that to us, you can commence. Broadly, there are circumstances throughout the county. Throughout the county, we have subdivisions that, and we have areas in the county that have design review, and we have other, have visual sensitivities, have other, types of districts where we do review those projects based on county code and standards. At times, county code may be in conflict or not as specific as a CCNR or an HOA. In those cases, we do our approvals based on county code and without necessarily regard to specificity in the private rules, unless they concur with county code. The blue roof, I will not speak specifically on. I will defer in that case to Mr. Spencer, in that case of the county's approval as it relates to CCNRs and anything you'd like to expand on.
Thank you, Melanie. Craig Spencer with Housing and Community Development. Good afternoon. I'll try and be brief. At a very high level, the roof in Toro Park required design approval from the county under our zoning ordinance. So our staff is actually looking at the design and taking some action on whether or not that design meets neighborhood character. Because we have design review standards in our zoning code, it's designated as a D district or design review and approval district. That we allow them to have a roof. If the homeowners association, and there are dozens of homeowners associations in unincorporated Monterey County, we don't enforce any of their rules. If their rules say you can't have a blue roof, and the county's rules don't say that, our standards, we look at county code. It's not objective in this case. So they think the argument there is we shouldn't have acted on the design approval the way we did, not that we shouldn't have done a design approval. In the case of use of private roads for a project that we're considering, there is this other chapter. And it has, sometimes homeowners associations govern a private road, sometimes they don't. Sometimes a homeowners association just says, you need our HOA approval before you can build something. And that means you go to their own design review committee and they approve. And if you don't go to their design review committee, they have to enforce those rules. The county doesn't have to require that you go to your design review committee for your HOA. When it involves a dispute over whether there's the legal rights to access a private road amongst parties to that private road, which are the people on the private road and the governing structure, which in some cases is an HOA or some equivalent of an HOA, then we say resolve the dispute, and you can, we're approving of your permit, but you need to resolve this dispute to show us, demonstrate you have access, legal access for the purposes of the permit we're giving you. That's not part of the HOA rules, but it is an interpretation of their rules that is at question. And that's the reason we have the private road requirements. It's not, it's a little bit of a different situation where one is we have to do a permit, the other is we're reviewing a permit for which we're not involved in the dispute.
I think I get it. It's a little murky. I should say there's a little discretionary into there. And I know with staff is and their department's pretty overworked as it is. It just seemed like there could be some clarification on there, and maybe the best way for me to address that is give it some thought, and maybe there's space for a referral in there to help clear up some of these some of this murkiness out of that, to make things a little more objective and less discretionary. So, okay, thank you.
So just to be clear, if this were to receive approval by the board today, they will still not have a permit unless that condition that they show the applicant provide the county with proof of access demonstrating that the dispute has been satisfactorily resolved. They will not actually have a permit in hand to function, correct?
Yeah, so the way, when this one is issued, they will have their coastal development permit subject to this condition. Should that condition be cleared, then they could commence the use. The way that the condition is structured, so we do not issue our vacation rental operator's license until any conditions are satisfied. So we do not issue that vacation rental operator's license, and therefore they would not be able to receive their license. We have actually since July, when you first heard this appeal, we went back and looked at some of our internal processes, and we did clarify in our condition. We've now updated the language where the conditions now indicate you have 60 days to satisfy the conditions of approval, or we will deny the vacation rental operator's license.
There's a time limit for them to.
There's a time limit, and once that license is denied, that is at what point in time when enforcement would be able to step in and say, okay, now you need to cease operation, and in the future, you may come back in and apply for that license once you've cleared all your conditions. So that's how we.
And to clear that condition, they'd have to submit some kind of document, an agreement, a letter. What do you require from them?
It would need to be some sort of legally enforceable document, either between the Pebble Beach Company and the applicant agreeing to the use of roads for this purpose, or as a determination made by a court or other legal entity deciding the matter, since both parties disagree as to the language and whether it applies in this case.
Greg, you want to add something?
No, she got it. It's written agreement amongst the parties or a court's order. That will be the determinant factor on who's right in this dispute.
This is a key condition here, so I just wanted to see how it was going to work in real life after we leave. Depending on the decision today, after the decision today. Thanks.
Thank you. I think I just want to say I think you laid out the situation pretty clearly, Supervisor Daniels, and as much as I think there's a lot at play in what's before us, but there really is this very clear question of this clear question of what the appeal is calling out specifically. So I think that we need to act on that. Happy to entertain a motion.
Yeah, I'd like to move forward denying the appeal and approving the permit with the conditions as they have been outlined in all previous permit applications. And I don't know if that's consistent with what the staff recommendation was. I believe it was exact to the staff recommendation.
I would move for staff recommendation.
I would like to move staff recommendation.
I'll second.
All right. Thank you. We have a motion from Daniels, a second from Church. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, passes unanimously. Thank you. Clearly, there's more work for us to continue working on here. Okay, we're moving on to item number 12, which is our notices of non-renewal of Williamson Act contracts for 2027.
Through the chair, give me one moment, please. Okay, can we share staff screen right, please? Thank you. All right, good afternoon, Chair Root Askew and members of the board. I am Kayla Nelson with Housing and Community Development, presenting on the 2027 county-initiated notices of Williamson Act contracts, and I am joined here today with Mary Perry from County Council. The item before you involves the Williamson Act program, which landowners receive a reduced property tax assessment by agreeing to, and I emphasize, utilize their property solely for commercial agricultural production and a limited number of board-approved compatible uses for agricultural preserve and farmland security zone contracts. The county is required to monitor the Williamson Act program by periodically reviewing the continued eligibility and compliance of the Williamson Act lands. Every year in January, the assessor's office mails the annual Williamson Act questionnaires to contract owners. The purpose of these questionnaires is to evaluate tax assessments and provide the county with information to confirm ongoing compliance with the Williamson Act program requirements. Staff would like to point out that Government Code Section 51245 provides a process for the county-initiated notice of non-renewal for Williamson Act contracts. And the last time the county did initiate non-renewals was back in 2015, which was approximately 10 years ago. The Agricultural Review Committee is responsible for reviewing compliance with the program, which consists of staff from Housing and Community Development, Agricultural Commissioner's Office, Assessor Recorder's Office, and the Office of County Counsel. This committee has collectively reviewed and supports the proposed county-initiated notices of non-renewal for the board's consideration. Additionally, the Agricultural Advisory Committee must consider the review committee's recommendation of the proposed notice of non-renewal, which was conducted at their June 25th and July meetings of this year. This year, staff completed its periodic review of contracts and initially found that 8 contracts were potentially not meeting the program contract requirements. Staff received 6 completed questionnaires where property owners clearly stated that their property is not in commercial ag production. 1 property owner did not return their annual questionnaire, and 1 3.8-acre parcel was originally included in the Williamson Act program with a group of several other contiguous parcels, but is now separately owned and utilized as a home site. On June 11th, staff mailed each of the 8 contract holders a registered letter to inform them of the county's intent to initiate non-renewal of their contract. This letter also informed them of the June Agricultural Advisory Committee meeting and the August 25th board hearing for consideration of this matter, as well as their right to request reconsideration of the county's intent to non-renew. The June meeting was held, and in response of the Agricultural Advisory Committee's request for further information regarding some of the proposed non-renewals, this item was continued to July. In July, the Advisory Committee recommended to non-renew 5 contracts listed here on this slide for not meeting program requirements, recommended a 1-year extension to allow property owners to reintroduce agricultural use and return for the Agricultural Advisory Committee's review for 2 contracts, and keep 1 contract under the Williamson Act after receiving additional information regarding their agricultural operation. Staff would like to note that the assessor's office is here today and would like to provide a brief discussion on the Louis contract listed at the bottom of the screen. Staff has prepared an errata to correct discrepancies in the board resolution attachment A, shown here in the red track changes on this slide, along with corresponding edits to the list of non-renewals in attachment B, and revised the notice of non-renewal for the Hagel contract attachment D2 to reference full non-renewal of 2 contracts held by the landowner. The red track changes reflect non-substantive edits to correct the assessor's parcel numbers and total acreage of each contract for non-renewal. Edits to the notices will be made to reflect whether each contract is for partial or full non-renewal. If approved by today's board action, 24 parcels and approximately 4,020 acres would be removed from the county's Williamson Act program for not meeting the program requirements. In conclusion, staff recommends that the board find the county-initiated notices of non-renewal are not a project pursuant to the California Environmental Quality Act and approve non-renewal of 5 Williamson Act agricultural preserve contract holders for not meeting the program requirements with the proposed errata changes. And this concludes staff's presentation. Through the chair, there is one more correction that would like to be stated on record.
I'd like to correct, this is Mary Perry with the County Counsel's Office. I would like to correct a typo in the draft resolution. Right under the title block, there's a reference to applications from 2026, which I think that might have been carried over from our template that we use for new applications. And instead of referring to the 2026 applications, we would like to say for the respective Williamson Act contracts. And I can send that to the clerk of the board just to make sure we don't have an incorrect reference.
Okay, and so this is the recommended slide on slide 8. And the slide 8 recommendations are slightly different from the Ag Advisory Committee recommendations, correct? Yeah, okay.
Through the chair, correct.
Thank you. We'll bring this back to the board for discussion. Is there any public comment on this item? Anyone from the public desire to speak? Is that a yes, a no, maybe? You can just come to the microphone so we can make sure everyone hears. Yeah, thank you.
It's not under public comment. I just need to add on, piggyback onto theirs.
Okay, this would be the perfect time for that. Thanks.
I will need the clerk of the board's help to just, I'm a little bit old school. I use paper, so I need somebody to come in and pass out these to you guys.
Yes, some handouts.
Here, I got plenty.
We'll share.
They'll show.
Sorry. That's all right.
Can we share staff screen right?
Here you go, Mary.
Oh.
So as I mentioned, I'm Greg McFarlane, representing the Assessor's Office. So Madam Chair, members of the board, I have a handout and quick presentation. You have the handout already. The handout approximates the change in year one assessments for each. This is the page that's colored in green and yellow. Looks like this. So this, the one-year assessments for each property that was recommended for non-renewal. Please keep in mind I am using the 2026 data for the 2027 approximation and assessments and discount rates. The assessment charge will take place effective January 1, 2027, if approved. The properties will impact changes in December 2027 and April 2028 tax bills. If you have no questions regarding this handout, I'll begin my presentation.
I may, because I don't know, I'm not quite sure on this one right here what Supervisor Lopez is referring to. Before he left, he asked me if I would have this one kind of pulled from there and sent back to the Ag Advisory Committee. And I don't know if this is the issue or if it's a different issue.
Sure, let me answer that for you because I have spoke to Supervisor Lopez.
And I will let you know more detail what's going on. I'll let you speak for him and not me.
Sure. I had reached out to him about a specific contract that's in his district. And it's actually the Farmland Security Contract 2005-009, which is up on your screens now. He told me in an email that he was going to ask or actually make a motion to send this one back to the AAC now that we have more information, to give them time to hear everything, pluses, minuses, all the good stuff, to make a different to make a educated decision or a recommendation to bring back to the board.
Just an additional clarification, if the votes are not there to have this one renewed, he'd prefer that it be sent back to the AAC. That's the request.
If we're speaking to FSC
yes.
5009, yeah, there's too much information that has come up that the AAC wasn't made aware of when they were originally making their recommendations, so that he wished to send this back to the AAC so that they could get this information that I was going to present to you guys. But if you want to just move that back to the AAC without going through my next 3 pages, that's fine with me. That was the whole idea.
I think we could support, speaking for myself, I see nods from my colleagues. Okay.
Just to be clear, that wasn't the only difference of opinion between the AAC and the staff recommendation. Was there also a difference of opinion on extending 2 of them?
Stewart and Daggett. 094 and 095.
So the 5 that are being recommended for non-renewal, the Ag Advisory Committee supported non-renewal of all of them.
Okay.
The clarifications made today concern acreage and APN numbers. So on those, they supported the non-renewal, but since between July, was it 23rd, and today, there were some APN and acreage information that came to light. And so we just wanted to make sure that the acreage was correct. For example, Hagel had 15 APNs, and that contract actually has 2 ag preserve contracts on them. I believe all of those APNs were presented to them, but they were not aware that there was a second ag preserve contract, which is number 2012-004. On Hernandez, there was a typo in that APN that is shown on the errata sheet. It was 081 was correct and 072 was incorrect, and that actually led to an update in the acreage. It was far less than what the wrong APN number had. On Silvera, there's a slight difference in the acreage of about 9 acres. On Ramirez, we always thought it was 68 acres.
I'm going to, sorry, Ms. Perry. I'm going to make a suggestion, since we are losing board members, that this board, the 3 that are left, may want to make a motion to continue this to the next available date to hear this by the board.
And if we could also make the motion to send the one item that Supervisor Lopez was requesting back to, so I'll make a motion to continue.
Public comment.
I think we went out to public comment. To continue the item, which item was that? The Louis item FSZ 05-009 back to the Ag Advisory Committee and continue the remainder of the discussion to a future meeting date. That's a motion.
Second that.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. And sorry for the.
That's okay. I know we're losing board members, but does the committee want only the Louis item to go back to the Ag Advisory, or?
That was the motion. That's what I understood the request was.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, these were really just APN and acreage information, but they did support those 5 being non-renewed.
Okay. And we'll just have that come back so we can have everyone.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I know you've been with us all day.
Yeah, I know. I got to see all of it.
See democracy in action. All right. We'll move on to item number 13, which is a referral matrix and new referrals. All right. And then 14, a preliminary response to board referral 26.11, seeking public. I'll let you announce. Thanks.
Yes, we do have both Andreas here, Director of Human Resources Department, and also Roderick Franks, who's the Director of Social Services, both here to provide a preliminary response to the board referral seeking a CalPERS and Covered California presentation. So with that, I'll turn it over to Andreas.
Good, I'm losing my voice, my apologies. Good afternoon, Chair and members of the board. On June 2nd, the County Administrative Office received board referral number 2026.11 by Chair Wendy Root Askew requesting an open session presentation from California Public Employee Retirement System, CalPERS, and Covered California regarding the impact of state and federal legislation on the commercial health insurance market and strategies being considered to manage the cost of commercial health insurance in Monterey County. In response to the referral, the Human Resources Department, as well as DSS, Department of Social Services, reached out to CalPERS and Covered California to facilitate any instruction and that we get from the board based on this referral. We therefore wait the board to let us know what they would like us to do. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. And I'll just say that I appreciate this coming forward. It's been sort of longer than a normal process would go for a board referral, but I do appreciate staff getting it back. My intent with the referral is really to give us and the public a clearer picture of what's happening in the broad health insurance market and what the changes that we're seeing at the state and federal mean for residents throughout Monterey County and those that we employ and their families and sort of the ecosystem that exists here in a broader sense than just simply county health care, which is what we oftentimes are talking about. I wanted to invite CalPERS and Covered California specifically so that we can hear about the strategies that they're engaging in to keep coverage affordable and where those where additional challenges that we may face and have to navigate through and in partnership with our county. So I'm happy to make a motion to proceed with option 1 and look forward to having that presentation return. I'll make that as a motion.
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. We need to take it out to public comment. Is there any public comment on this item? We have a hand raised. There's no one else in chambers. Everyone has left us, but we do have a hand raised online. Liam? Looks like we've lost Liam, but there was a hand raised from Liam. There's now a hand raised from Liam. We'll try you again, Liam.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Thank you.
Hello, testing. Can you hear me?
We've got you live here in chambers.
Thank you. Yeah, I just wanted to thank the board for pushing on this and having this referral. I know it's been a long day, so I'll keep my comments brief. Just appreciate that. And I also wanted to express our members, the county workers are facing a lot of urgency to find some resolutions and to find some solutions for the absurd healthcare costs in Monterey County, not just for themselves, but for the many people they serve. So thank you for pushing this forward, and we just wanted to express urgency around it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. I'm not seeing any other public comments, so we'll close public comment and bring it back to the board. There's a motion from Askew, a second from Church. Any further discussion? All right, well, all in favor? Aye. All right, and I think we were looking at a date. There had been a date on the advanced agenda to have this come forward, and it fell off of the advanced agenda. Do we have a tentative date?
We will reach out to CalPERS as well as Covered California tomorrow, and we will work with clerk of the board to find a appropriate date and time for this to appear on the agenda in open session.
Okay, great, thank you. And if I can assist in that at all, I'm happy to do so.
Thank you very much.
I'm looking forward to having this come forward for some time now. Thank you. All right, with that, we'll move on to County Administrative Officer comments.
Yes, very brief comments. We continue to monitor the timber fire, and we'll be joining Supervisor Daniels in just a bit in that regard. We're having conversations with community and just looking at how the fire is advancing. Unfortunately, it's grown significantly since last week. Just a couple acknowledgements of our departments, acknowledging the accomplishments of the library, and this includes the start of the construction of the 2 new branch library buildings, one in Bradley, which will also now act as a new resilience center for South County area, and one in East Garrison to serve as a very busy community, and the Reservation Road corridor between Marina and Salinas. The Bajaro Branch Library is progressing to a complete rehabilitation and refurbishment of a historic building. and your library staff is preparing all furniture, equipment, and brand-new book collection to open summer of 2027. The San Lucas Branch Library opened as a cooling center for the first time entirely on generator power, serving a community in heat during a widespread power outage. During the timber fire, library staff also came together to open a temporary evacuation point and operated at 3 different locations over a week, helping Big Sur residents connect with information, shelter, and resources. These accomplishments reflect the library's commitment to being more than a place to access books and information. It is an essential community resource that provides connection, resilience, and support when our residents need them most. In addition, to identify, just in acknowledgement of some of the work by the Human Resources Department, the Employment Services expanded outreach to 11 college, high school, and community events and supported 134 recruitments. 47 of those were managed by Central HR, 87 in partnership with departments. The second annual California State Association of Counties Leadership Program graduated 36 employees, with another 11 more than nearing completion. The team completed 101 base wage studies covering 178 classifications and achieved 100% compliance with the civil rights training. The Human Resources Information System supported the HR technology needs by testing Oracle HCM module, leading countywide HR and benefits user acceptance testing, coordinating wage increases for 20 bargaining units, and transferring 859 job specifications to governmentjobs.com. And lastly, Labor Relations negotiated a foundational agreement with UAPD with three multi-year successor agreements while managing 96 labor relations matters and supporting more than 115 employee relations matters. Thank you.
Move to board comments. I'll start with Supervisor Luis Alejo.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, I just want to thank the colleagues for approving the $10,000 from my office discretionary funds to support El Grito, the Mexican Independence Day festivities in East Salinas on Sunday, September 13th, organized by Tradición por Siempre, a local nonprofit group that puts that on there for the last several years. I got noticed last Thursday coming back from Sacramento at CSAC that it was back on, and so I want to thank staff and my staff who moved the paperwork quickly to get it on today's agenda, and we appreciate that accommodation because getting the funding quickly was critical for them. But I also just want to say they're currently reaching out, asking any vendors from previous years that they would love to have them come back for the September 13th event, and also any volunteers who might be willing to help out on a shift, and also any potential sponsors to help pay for other costs of the event. I think we get sometimes over 50,000 people at that event, and it's the biggest event in East Salinas, and I'm glad that it's going to continue that tradition, hopefully for many more years to come. Also, this Saturday is another biggie day in East Salinas. It's the grand reopening of Cluster Park. There was a significant amount of, I think, almost $8 million from the state, and the city put in some additional funding to completely redo the park, which the community really utilizes, from the basketball courts to the gazebo, to families wanting to just enjoy the outdoors. It is now reopening after many months of being under construction, so we're looking forward to that this Saturday at 11. And last thing, I just as a report as a CSAC representative from Monterey County, last Thursday we did take positions on just a few propositions that the board of directors thought were important. Those were Proposition 1, the housing bond that is on the November ballot. CSAC voted a yes position on that. On Proposition 3, which is existing income on existing tax on higher incomes that provides critical funding for schools and healthcare. That's Prop 3. That was a support position. And then Proposition 43 that would limit the voters' ability to raise local revenues for local governments or local government services. That was approved position of opposition. So those are our 3 positions to report on. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, just briefly, this Sunday is Aromas Day in North County. It's an annual event, big event for North Monterey County, San Benito County, Santa Cruz County as well. Kind of an all-day event. People start early. The Grange holds a pancake breakfast and lots of other activities going forth then. So I want to remind everybody of that. And also wish to congratulate Lindsay Berg-James, who's just selected by the governor for the new Superior Court judge here in Monterey County. Lindsay is married to my cousin, and she's a fine addition to the Monterey County bench.
Hi, big congratulations. I want to just briefly welcome all of our CSU Monterey Bay students back to campus. It was great to see and hear that so many of the speakers today are students attending higher education right here in Monterey County in District 4. So welcome back to campus. We're thrilled to have you in the community. Look forward to getting to know you. Last week, I co-hosted or co-welcomed with some folks a roundtable focus group on community housing land trust model of how additional permanently affordable housing can be built and held here in Monterey County. It was a really incredible group of folks who came together. I want to thank Gabe Sanders for organizing that activity and that event. And then just yesterday, I want to thank the Monterey County Public Defender's Office, Ray Buenaventura and Tom O'Keefe, and the entire team hosted a roundtable with some of our faith leaders from Seaside in Monterey County, our African American community leaders, including the Monterey County Black Caucus, with just a informational meeting about all of the services that the Public Defender's Office provides, and really looking to open up lines of communication between those community leaders and the Public Defender's Office. So really was impressed by the presentations and the engagement that occurred, and want to recognize and thank our Public Defender's Office for doing that kind of outreach in the community. It is meaningful and important. And then briefly, just want to say we've got some youth sports programs getting up and started. So on Saturday, I'll be out with the Marina Youth Soccer Association at their opening day, and then later on this weekend with the Gill Basketball Academy as they celebrate their 18th anniversary. And there's a bunch of other youth sports happening. A great way for not just kids to get involved in activity, but for families to come together and meet one another, and for community building to occur. So I love that we get to invest in those types of things. And those are all my comments. I'll pass it back to you. Yeah,
I
please.
just wanted to give a special thanks to Kayla Gonzalez. She was my intern this summer. She stayed longer than most of my summer interns do. She's heading back this week to Johns Hopkins University to start her second year at college. But I really want to thank her. She's really involved in cultural activities here in Salinas, really involved with the indigenous Zapotec, Mixteco communities, including the Guelaguetza, a couple Sundays ago. So I just wanted to say she did a really great job, and all Team Alejo was honored to have her be part of doing great work this summer in our office. Thank you.
All right. With that, I believe we have report out from closed session.
There's no reportable action.
We don't have report out from closed session, and we are adjourned. Thank you.
Report is that
Don't want to miss it, though.